Tonight, we are speaking to Graham Stephen, the founder and CEO of a company called bizval. Graham, good evening to you.
Good evening, Peter, and good evening to all the listeners. Thanks for having me here.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for coming along. You have a very interesting business. You've got a very fresh-looking website, bizval, and you evaluate businesses. Believe it or not, that is a word for someone out there who thinks it's not. But yeah, you evaluate business, or you I don't know how it works. Explain to me, as if I'm a Labrador, please.
100%, Petri. I mean, so the joke starts. There were two accountants and a lawyer, but essentially,
and they started a business.
And they started a business, yeah. But essentially, what we've done is we've created an online tool that allows business owners, accountants, lawyers, brokers, anybody really, to quickly and easily go online, answer a few questions, and get a value for your business. It's really as simple as that, and it's something that as accountants and professionals, we've obviously been very passionate about, and it's something that we've noticed that there was a gap in the market. We, the three founders, all were involved in some form of professional engagement with clients, doing growth strategies, consulting. And the question that always popped up was, what's my business worth? And that really was the seed, I guess, for creating bizval. We wanted to make it easy, accessible, and affordable for any company owner to go and determine a value for their business.
And it is a science, really, figuring out what companies are worth, because there's a lot of things that go into placing a value on stuff.
100%, and you say it's a science, but I guess to take it a step further, it's an art and a science. When you value a business, obviously there's, I'm a CA myself, as is one of my partners, but there's obviously a process that you go through, but there's also an art to it, and the art side is often the part that's really hard to quantify. It's an emotion that's gone into building the business. It's that passion. It's the late nights. It's the early mornings. It's, the sacrifices you make. And often those things you have to factor in. And then there's also the concept of a willing buyer and willing seller. You can put a number on the table for your business at the end of the day. It's like when you buy or sell a house. It's what is somebody prepared to pay for that? And what we try to do is to get to an answer that's, as close as possible to what that number is. In a quick and easy way.
So what are some of the things? I mean, someone out there is sitting listening to this, going, "Well, okay, I've got a small business. I'd like to know how much it's worth." What are the things that you look at? What are the key things? I guess the inputs into valuing the business.
Yeah. So look, there are a few key things that we look at. I mean, the first one is we always talk about that, but what are your profits or what are your cash flow from the business? So most valuation models look at, are you making money? I mean, we don't typically look at the sort of early stage, let's call it startup businesses that aren't yet making any money. And there's sort of different techniques for valuing those. So the first thing is, are you making money? Then we need to understand sort of what is the quality of the cash flow or the money that you're making. So, do you have, lots of customers or do you have one big customer? You look at things like, how dependent are you on the owner in the business? If the owner of the business gets hit by a bus, can the business carry on without them? We look at, some of your expense and income structures. What do those look like? So how much profit or what are your unit economics on every single sale that you're making? And then we also look at some of the assumptions around the business. So, how quickly are you growing? So if you're making 100 Rand profit today, what will you be making in 5 years' time? And that's, I guess, where some of the art comes into it, is trying to understand what the future looks like.
And there's a little bit of macroeconomics involved there too, because the business might be growing very well, but the economy at large is not.
100%. So you touch on a very important point. So you look at the business in of itself, and then you look at the environment in which it's operating. And often those things are equally as important, So if you're valuing a business in South Africa versus a business in the UK or the US, those macroeconomic factors differ. So those are some of the things that we bring into our model and the way that we value the business.
Okay, and then why is it important for me to know the value of my business other than curiosity?
I think there's a few things. It depends on who you're talking to. If you're a business owner or an entrepreneur, I mean, it's hard, right? I mean, it's late nights. It's worrying about paying salaries at the end of the month. Where's the next client going to come from? And our motivation as entrepreneurs ourselves was, we wanted to create a scorecard for the business. We wanted to be able to say, hey, this is something you do not just once off, but that you can do, once a year, once every 6 months. So you've got a bit of a scorecard to see, are you actually creating something of value here? And why would you want that? People want to, sell their business one day. It might be because they want to retire. It might be because, they actually want to build something, sell it, and move on and do something else. A lot of entrepreneurs are like that. They want to, explore new things. It could be that you've received an offer for your business and, you actually want to know whether that offer is reasonable or not.
Right.
And then there's the sort of more practical things like, if you're doing your retirement planning, it's one thing to have a portfolio of investments, but you also need to consider if you're a business owner, what's that business worth in that sort of portfolio? It's pointless having, focusing only on your retirement portfolio and then not understanding whether your business is sellable. So there's probably 100 different reasons why, but for us, I think the three most important things would be, it's a scorecard for your business. The second would be, to help you in terms of a sale or a purchase or an acquisition of your business. And the third would probably be, things like retirement planning, longer term thinking. Maybe I'd add a fourth there is, when you're trying to grow your business, and it goes back to the scorecard thing, is, are you making the right decisions? Are you doing the things that are going to add value to your business rather than just making you, busier? And I think that's quite an important part of it.
And I think also for companies who are, earlier this week we spoke to Mark from Decusatio. I struggle to say it. Anyway, great business. And what they do is they help small companies gain access to market and access to finance. So, okay, fine. Maybe your business is too big for Mark to be able to help you out. But you are looking for, growth funding. You need to raise a few $1 million to, build a new factory or whatever it is that your business does, right? You make candles and you need to buy a container full of wax, let's say. And you can approach potential financiers, and they're going to want, a piece of your blood, sweat, and tears, aka a share of your business. How much is that share worth? I mean, this is a great reason to get a valuation done, right?
100%. I mean, that's one of the use cases, and that's one of the things that a lot of our clients, and we work directly with business owners, but we also work with some of the intermediaries like attorneys and accounting firms, and that's one of the areas that they use this is for, setting up a shareholder agreement. What percentage of your business should you give away? And I think, just to jump in here as well is we don't seek to replace the professional firms in the equation. There's definitely a big role for, the accounting firms to play when you get to sort of closing the deal stage, right? When you might want to do a full due diligence or
a full audit.
Even maybe a full audit, so to speak. Correct.
Yeah.
But at least when you start those discussions, you know whether you're facing in the same direction or not. And it's very empowering for an owner of a business to kind of know where to pitch that. If you go into negotiation and you're thinking your number's 10 million, but actually it's 50 million, you're already on the back foot. So really what we want to do is empower owners to kind of have a sense of worth. And that's kind of where our sweet spot is, so to speak.
Okay. I mean, looking at your site here, you mentioned the word affordable somewhat earlier, and I can do one valuation on your website for 2,250 Rand. If I think about what my auditor would charge to value my company, I would guess this is probably more than 10 times cheaper, right?
Yeah, look, I think we're talking magnitudes cheaper. So, when we set out about building this business, affordability was key. We didn't want it to be out of reach from anyone. So we set ourselves a target to say, can we do this 20 times cheaper than, what you can do out there? And again, we're not trying to disrupt that industry at all. An analogy I use is it's a bit like the sort of finger prick cholesterol, blood sugar,
right,
and heart rate test. You can go off to a physician and spend thousands of rands on getting a health check done. But for most people, I think Discovery does this very well, is they put, you do your annual checkup. It costs you a few $100, and it tells you, you're good to go, or listen, you need to go and see your doctor. So to use that as an analogy, I think that's where we fit in. And for 95% of the time, that is good enough. And you're right, yeah. So our price point is around just over 2,000 Rand for evaluation. We do have some other offerings which we call a concierge service, which has a little bit more of a personal touch. We go a little bit deeper into some of the questions and assumptions, and that's priced at just over 5,000 Rand. So that gives you a good feel. We've had clients who've paid north of 100,000 Rand for evaluation through a professional firm. We're not seeking to replace that, but we're seeking to kind of at least help the client understand their value before they go and incur that cost, which is certainly very powerful.
Yeah, so let's say a competitor approaches you and says, I want to buy you out. You quickly get a job valuation done, get a sense of where you are. That gives you some negotiating power. Now finally you can negotiate on a strong footing because, I'm worth 50 million, not 10. Like my competitor kind of eludes that I am. So it gives you the ability to negotiate, and then maybe later on you might get the banks to do a proper, I don't want to say proper, but this really in-depth dredging of the business to do a more thorough type of valuation.
100%. Maybe if I can just touch on a couple of things there. I think, you talk about proper. I think we kind of back ourselves to do a proper valuation. I think the one difference, though, is that often the sort of more advanced ones go and really interrogate and validate the numbers that go into that. So when you do a valuation through us, we rely on you putting in the right information. If you say your revenue is 10 million, we don't go and audit your financial statements to make sure that your revenue is 10 million Rand.
As where the bank is charging you 100 or 200 grand to do it, they're going to audit you.
Exactly. They're going to go through that process. And the other thing we also wanted to do is to make sure that it's not intimidating. So to do a valuation with us, we've tried to avoid any accounting, legal jargon, so that the man in the street can do it. It's a bit like when you think about using an Apple phone, your 3-year-old or your 4-year-old child can pick it up and use it. They don't need to be a computer expert, as opposed to somebody who's coding an operating system like DOS or Linux or one of these sort of complicated systems in the background. They both have their space, but we want it to be user-friendly and easy for anyone to use. We want you to be able to have a conversation with your accountant, or even to do this without needing to have your accountant there.
Your accountant can draw up your financials, you can plug in the numbers, and you can get a good sense of what your business is worth realistically.
Yeah, it's like when you go to the doctor and you're trying to, understand what's wrong with you. When they start talking in hieroglyphics and, all the technical terms, most people switch off, So we don't want you as the business owner to be intimidated. We want you to be able to, understand in plain language what you're doing.
Okay, all right. And if anybody out there listening is interested in, I might do it just out of pure curiosity. I'll be honest with you. How do we find you? How do we do evaluation on our companies if we want to?
Sure. So the best would be to go to our website. It's bizval, bizval, .co. So not .coza, not .com, bizval.co. We are an international platform, so it works equally well whether you've got a business in South Africa, the UK, US, or even Timbuktu. So go to our website. We also are on LinkedIn. We are on Twitter. We are on Instagram and Facebook, so you can find us there. We also host a monthly webinar, which is quite educational, and it's a really good space to learn a little bit more about company valuations, how it works, what the drivers and the levers are. And we have a resource center on our website. So if you go to our website and you click on the Insights section, we've got a library of content with case studies, with links to our previous webinars. It's all there. So, that would probably be the best place to start. And then if you want to perform a valuation, it's as simple as, clicking Get Started. You create a profile, and within minutes, you pay your money up front, and within minutes you can be doing your valuation. And, if you're a business owner who understands your business, understands the drivers, within 15 minutes you'll have the valuation in your inbox.
Oh, very nice. And how do we register for the webinars?
So on the webinar, if you go to our website, on the front page of the webinar, there'll usually be a link to the webinar. Our next webinar it's probably past actually, so this is a pre-recorded discussion. But our next webinar is going to be in a month's time. We usually have it on the sort of third Wednesday of the month.
Okay.
But if you go to our website, the next webinar will be advertised there and you'll be able to find it there.
Okay, great stuff. Thank you very much. All right.
Great, Petri. Thanks for having me. And yeah, always good to chat. And thanks to the listeners. And yeah, hopefully we chat to you again soon.
Yeah, likewise, man. It was a pleasure having you on the show, and it's a pleasure learning some new things from you, Graham. So that was Graham Stephen, the founder and CEO of bizval, bizval.co, bizval.co. Go and have a look. See what your company's worth, even if it's just for curiosity's sake. But if you are doing a deal, this will definitely give you the ammo that you need to make sure that you do make a fair deal. So yeah, that's what we got for you. You're on Hot Business.
Hot 1027 Business.